IT, finance and budget, and also the risk and safety area. So a lot of the operational side of the house that really kind of keeps that in the infrastructure of the institution, tries to keep the ship running in the background so that when Provost Mendez and his team, they're in the lead and driving the ship, we're right there behind them.
Yeah. So look, we've been at this, we've had the roadshow here since February, and doing presentations all across campus. And so we're going to talk to you all about today is the budget transformational model, the work we're doing in that area. And we're not just going to talk about one particular lever. Is it lever or lever? It's lever, lever. Is it lever?
Lever.
Lever. Is it lever or lever here? What's the lever? Lever. Anybody goes with lever? No? So no, it's a lever. Okay, we'll go lever. So it's not just about one budgetary lever and one financial decision. It's about how can we better be the best possible stewards here with the resources we have at this university. And so today we're going to kind of just go overview of the weeks and weeks of we were working together and the game plan for the next couple of years as we reform ourselves to make the best possible university for you all, the students. That's the reason we're all here. Overall. So to begin with, we'll talk a little bit about the
Hey, Jesse, just real quick. Yeah. I know Sam asked everyone to watch our live stream of the open forum. How many of you were able to do that? That'll give us a sense of sort of the level set of the room. Okay, so a few of you did.
Okay, so we got that's good.
That's fine.
20%. That's good. That's respectable. So
at least 2 more people watched it who are running late.
Okay.
So at least the committee members.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. So why are we doing what we're doing? What is the most valuable resource we have on this campus is people, faculty, staff, and most importantly, the students. Part of that motivates us to do what we're doing is that we're not paying our people what they should be paid for on the open market. And this goes, we're not paying faculty the salary they should be having, staff the same thing, but most importantly, also students as well, graduate students. And so when you look at what we pay graduate students across the Big 12, we're probably in the lower end quartile overall. We want to improve that going forward. Also, our current budget model is an RCM model. And what basically that is, in not so many words, is that it's sort of an eat what you kill model. And so you bring resources in, you get to spend those resources without really having a conversation centrally about how it serves our strategic plan for this university. And you've heard us talk about the Next Gen plan and many other venues and so on. We're a university that actually follows our strategic plan. And so what we're trying to do is have a budget model that follows our strategic plan. Student affordability, this is the perfect group to talk to you about that. We'll make sure that we're keeping tuition and fees as low as we possibly can to be efficient with the resources we have at our disposal. Financial stability is a huge aspect. There was the Positive Financial
Index.
And so it's basically a bill of health for every university. And we've actually have increased our standing with that index score in time, going through COVID, going through the cyber attacks for a couple of years ago. And that's because we've been able to be great stewards for the resources we have. Infrastructure and investments. My kids would say that the technology infrastructure we have here is vintage. It's old, it's antiquated. We need to invest more into it. And so that's part of our plan as well. Last but not least, operational excellence. What that means is basically, are we being efficient with the resources we have? Are we optimizing our people to the greatest degree possible going across the board? So,
yeah. Thanks, Jesse. So kind of where we're at today, what Provost Mendez mentioned it, we're healthy financially, but we recognize that there are going to be a significant amount of pressures coming onto our budget over the next 3 to 5 years. And so what you have up here is a high-level summary of what we're anticipating: over $100 million in annual recurring costs that are going to come online, as well as a one-time investment that we're going to need for $75 million. And so these financial pressures is what's leading to the need for a budget transformation and also activating the different types of levers that we want to have at the institution that we'll kind of cover here in a second. Let me walk through these real quick. And again, the reason why I asked who was able to watch the open forum, Jesse and I go through this in a lot more detail. I think it was about a 50-minute presentation. And so you'll be able to get a much deeper flavor for each of these, as well as the different components of the transformation, if you have an opportunity to watch that. So real quick, starting up at the upper left there, student recruitment and retention. We're estimating a need to invest about $4.3 million into our enrollment and recruitment teams, as well as our student success teams. What's driving this is the fact that we are in the midst of an enrollment cliff or a demographic cliff. So there are just fewer students out there for the traditional age students for us to go out there and recruit for. And so then we've got to make sure that the recruitment engine is running, and so that we can reach into different markets, grow the share of our recruitment pie. And then we've also got a number of student success activities that have been put in place, such as EAB Navigate, some exploratory advisors, some of those key pieces that have helped improve our student retention. So we need to invest some dollars there. We've got one of our missions is in research, and so we've got some significant impact from the federal transition that has impacted our research capacity at the institution. So we're seeing a decline in revenues coming in that supports our research infrastructure. Provost Mendez mentioned it, competitive market pay. We're preparing to make the single largest investment in our faculty, staff, and graduate students that I've seen in my time here at the institution. I've been here since 2014. So this is an effort to make sure that our employees are paid appropriately in comparison to the market. And what that will allow us to do is make sure that we're recruiting and retaining the best faculty, the best advisors, all those individuals that impact your daily lives. We want to make sure that we're able to recruit them and retain them. I would point out that our competitors are doing the same thing as well. And so by doing nothing, if we were to not invest these dollars, we would fall further and further behind in our ability to recruit and retain. Aging technology, vintage is the one word for it. What we're talking about there is our core enterprise system. So that's our HR system, our finance system, and our student system, so CASES. They are 21 years old. They were put in place before the iPhone debuted, if that gives you a perspective of how old they are. And these things are really holding us back as an institution. We've got a lot of inefficient processes that are due to the antiquated technology. We've got a lot of shadow systems that are out there across the institution that are in place because the functionality just doesn't exist in these core ERPs. So we've got $75 million we're estimating to replace those three systems. We've got deferred maintenance on our facilities. We've been making a lot of really good progress on renovations and repairs, improvements, especially around the classrooms, with other buildings that we have at the institution, our research spaces. But we still have a gap that we need to fill in annually, about $17.8 million that will be needed in the coming years for us to invest. And then we just have a new era that we're in with athletics, a new reality. The era of revenue share and NIL is here. And for athletics, that's an additional $20 to $21 million a year that's going to come online for them. And so from an institutional standpoint, athletics is a key piece of our DNA. It's a core component of our ecosystem.
It's our brand.
Yep,
So, yeah.
it's our brand. And so what we are doing here is taking a marginal approach to increasing the investment that we have into athletics. $4.2 million that will go into student athlete scholarships. Other institutions that are facing the same pressures that we are, they are taking the leap of funding the whole thing, but we don't feel that that's an appropriate step for us. We want to take a measured approach.
Yeah. And there's in the Big 12, there's only two other institutions besides ourselves that currently provide no institutional funds, and that's Oklahoma State and Iowa State. Iowa State doesn't do it because of a statute.
Yep.
Overall, but as Ethan shared, the landscape's changing and
Yep.
they need more support.
Yep. And then we have always, every year, we're always facing pressures around cost escalation. Price index that we follow has increased 20% since 2021. So for us, every year it gets more expensive to do the same things. And so if revenue has not kept pace, which it has not, that becomes a silent budget cut in essence. And then we face flat or declining state support, which impacts us every year. We're always wondering, what's the legislature going to do? Are they going to reduce our budget? Are they going to hold us flat? We're happy if they actually hold us flat, which is not necessarily the best thing for us, but we're always facing that. So where we end up, we're at about 100 million, greater than 100 million in annual recurring costs that are going to come online, and then that $75 million investment.
Okay. Next slide, please.
Do you want to?
So, yeah, so I think, so when we look at, these are the different type of levers that most universities, the first here actually are, these are all the levers that most universities use overall. They're sometimes very clunky. They're not really well utilized. It's a little bit of using the meat cleaver of across the board cuts on all the different units across campus. And so let's take just a snapshot of what's going on in Kansas. Wichita State, they're going through a 7% cut across the board. They're just taxing everybody 7%. KU, the institution right down the road, as far as they're looking at 70 million, and they're doing the same type of approach. What we're trying to do is something different. We're trying to have a couple more, we're calling it budget transformational levers. And these are ways in which we're trying to utilize all of the resources we have right now, so we don't have to do across the board cuts, or when we do it, it's not nearly to the nth degree that our other neighbors are doing it across the board. And so pulling money that we have in terms of carry forward, pulling money from different sources we have on campus. And so just, I don't know, do we want to kind of just talk a little bit through the different?
Yeah, so thank you, Provost Mendez. So the first two really that we're looking at there relate to our research world. And so we're going to change the process internally distribute, sorry, I think that might have been me, research overhead that we collect off of federal grants. And so we're going to centralize that. But the purpose behind centralizing it is really trying to be much more strategic in how we allocate those and elevate it for a university-wide level. Not that the colleges were doing anything non-strategic, but just trying to make sure that we're elevating how we use a fewer dollars that are going to come into our pipeline. We've got, again, another research effort there where we're going to adjust how we budget on federal grants in order to try to capture some more dollars to come back into the institution to support the variety of financial challenges that we've got in there. We're looking at how do we distribute future enrollment growth dollars across the institution. So Provost Mendez mentioned it earlier, our current budget model is much more heavily focused on performance-based activities for the colleges. That's how they would get additional budgetary dollars. What we're going to do is shift that back more incremental, but we still want to provide an opportunity for performance incentives that align with our next-gen goals and metrics that we want to have. Do you want to talk about programmatic?
Yeah, so we have a number of different departments across campus. Some are kind of boutique departments. They have, I think we have 39 departments across campus. They have 15 tenure track faculty overall. And not saying that's the only metric that we're looking at in terms of size of department, but that's one of the many metrics we'll have to take a closer look at. But going back to this idea of being good stewards of the resources, do we need to have, X amount of small departments, or is there ways to kind of consolidate effort and consolidate programs across the board and have a more interdisciplinary approach to administration? And so we're going to be focusing on that for the next 2 years. It's not going to be an immediate change, but we're going to have conversations with each of your respective colleges and look at, what exactly certain metrics could be. Enrollment, could be research, could be a number of faculty and staff within each area. So we'll be talking to the deans of each college and having those conversations.
And the reason why we're going through all the levers is we want you to understand the context and the scope of the different ways that we're tackling our challenge by activating our resources differently that we have at the institution. But one of the areas that we want to make sure that we're focusing on is, are we being as efficient in our operations as possible? This fall, we had a working group that came together We looked at about 30 different types of efficiency ideas at the university, and ultimately came forward with 21 and prioritized to 11. And so those would be things like implementing a new procurement system. We don't actually have a holistic one for the institution. We'd implement that. That would make it much more efficient for units to go buy the things that they buy every day. We'd look at other organizational structures that might come in place that we could be more efficient in how we allocate our personnel across the institution. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything on our end to be as efficient as possible to reduce that financial burden and capture some of those savings back to meet our challenges. We also have cash that carries forward. So every year a unit gets a budget, they don't spend it. That means that there's unspent cash. There's a variety of reasons why that might be. They might be saving up for equipment purchases. They might be saving up to do renovations in a facility. What we would look at are how do we activate some of those cash balances, pull those centrally in order to, again, elevate and apply use those dollars in a strategic fashion to look at repair and renovation across the university, investing in the antiquated technology, those types of items. We want to look at that. And the last one really, which is why we kind of talked with Sam and everybody, was the operational support fee, because that's really the piece that we wanted to make sure we were very transparent with this group about. What that would look at is a 5% fee on revenues that come into what we call our special revenue fund. So that's going to be things like sales. So we go sell a lot of ice cream over in Call Hall. Well, we did until we shut it down for 13 months. And we also sell livestock or seed or equipment. You know, we have a lot of sales dollars that come into the institution. We charge for services as well. The fees that are generated through the student services fee comes into that account. College fees comes into that account. What we would implement would be a 5% fee on those revenues across the board. So to give you some perspective, that would be about $800,000. That would be the 5% fee on student services fee. That's in relation to 10 million total is what we're estimating would be brought in off of that fee across the institution. So it's going to be impacting a lot of units. But again, that's part of the reason why we're here tonight. We want to be very open and transparent about that fee and answer any questions we can. So the reason why we're doing it off of those revenues that come in is because we're going to, first off, take those dollars and dedicate it to replacing our antiquated system. So think about it as dollars going back into the project to replace cases would be one component of that. Once we've filled that bucket, we would then move and take those dollars and apply it again to repair and renovation across the university. So think about it in terms of your classrooms, your research spaces, all those areas. That's where those dollars would go.
Not so many words, trying to give you the best possible learning experience here at K-State that we possibly give.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Next slide.
So what we're trying to do with this framework, it's a lot more complicated than, like Provost Mendez mentioned, it's a lot more complicated to do than other universities that are just sort of taking an across-the-board cut. We still have to do that, even with all these additional areas that we're tackling. But we've minimized that to where it would just be a 1.1% cut for the next 3 years for all units across the institution. But the key piece here is all of those dollars that we're going to generate off of that across the board cut go right back into our faculty, staff, and graduate students to improve their compensation. So although we've worked really hard to minimize it, we still will have to deploy that sort of traditional budget lever. But we've worked really hard to minimize that, but it all is going back into our compensation program.
So just one recap, we've thrown a lot of information to you all. And so just to recap why we're doing what we're doing is one, as we mentioned before, providing competitive compensation to graduate students, continued focus on student success and retention efforts, improve faculty and staff compensation, attracting the very best for you all in the classroom, the best staff to work with, the best faculty to teach courses, to collaborate with you on research projects. Also, we have an antiquated vintage system across the board we need to reinvest in. And also just facilities. We need better classroom space, better labs, better facilities. We're working on the parking, but
Oh, come on.
but it's about giving you the best facilities that you need during your years here at K-State. So with that,
That,
yeah,
yep, I think
happy
we're
to
open
answer
for questions.
Yeah, just to make sure, so the money coming from student services fee will have a 5%, fee charged to it that will be going to K-State, is that correct?
It would go into replacing our antiquated technology. Yes. Yep.
So that would be $800,000 per year.
It's roughly that. Yeah.
Is that, sorry, is that in addition to the 1.1% per year?
Yes, that would be an addition, but the 1.1 is going for compensation. The fee revenue would be going towards the technology replacement. So different challenges that we're answering with those different levers.
Yeah, out of curiosity, for the $17.8 million of deferred maintenance, why is that not covered by the state legislature?
That's a great question.
Wonderful question.
I don't have an answer for you. Sorry. I'll take that back. So what's leading to that is there's a Board of Regents policy in place right now where the board is requiring us as a university to invest $53 million annually in addressing our deferred maintenance backlog. The state has provided a couple revenue streams. One is a Restoration Act dollars and another one's called the Educational Building Fund. That reduces that 53 million to 17.8. So the state's actually been a big partner in the last few years, more so than they have in the past. But there's still a component that, still falls on the university to do. We also have a lot of support from our donors that come in. So really, there's probably about three or four different pipelines of revenue that come in to help us do repair and renovation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for the 5% increase is everything going to be increasing 5% for like across the board? Or is it just certain items that the students don't see as far as, okay, let me back up. So like is tuition and college fees and student services fee going to be increasing 5% plus any additional increases that tuition or college fees or student services fee it will be already doing?
Not necessarily. So let me think about it from the standpoint of we'll apply the fee. So let's talk Call Hall for just an easy example. Call Hall may decide to increase their prices appropriately in order to stay flat with in terms of the revenues they generate. So that could be a result of that, but that would be a decision by the unit that runs Call Hall to do that. Student services fee, sort of the same thing. It would be this group's decision about whether they wanted to increase it to 5% in order to remain flat, still subject to Board of Regents in that particular instance. So it's not it's not necessarily that when we apply this fee, everything goes up. I think each unit will have to look at their particular operations and understand, do we want to adjust our prices to recover that revenue or not?
Actually, we'll do that. We'll go to you and then we'll. Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Okay. I would say particularly when you're thinking about questions, definitely think of it from a lens of the people in this room will be voting on a student fee increase, and how does this play into the level of increase that might or might not be necessary for us? Or framing the problem for everyone.
Thank you for the information. I'm the caucus leader for graduate students. We always have this problem about the compensation and the paychecks that the students have had. And we know that since 2019, there hasn't been a change in the paychecks for the graduate students. So, and there was supposed to be talk with graduate school, and they said they will have a kind of research. I think your name was in the list of the people who were controlling the project, but it was supposed to be finished by the end of December. And the news was supposed to be announced, and we will to have some changes about the paychecks. But unfortunately, as I follow it on the website, it was not finished and there is no change. I was wondering if you would give us some information about that, or you would consider the changes for the students, especially for grad students. Thank you.
Yep.
So just before we get into that, so I've been on campus for 2 years, and my very first meeting with the university distinguished professors, they told me, as a provost, if you fix anything during your time here as provost, you need to address graduate student pay. And so, and what Ethan and I are talking about, that is finally addressing that overall. There is a compensation study being done. They have most of it, done. And so I think there's going to be a little bit of a rollout. There was a slight rollout earlier this week. And so you'll hear more information on the compensation study and some of the findings in the compensation studies.
Yeah, but specifically looking at what's that minimum stipend that all graduate students should have. And then a couple other components that might be worked on. But Provost Mendez is correct. We're starting to roll out for everyone, both faculty and staff and graduate students, an education component over the next several months. And then we also have some behind the scenes work that we have to do within our various systems to make sure that this all works out appropriately. At this point, we're anticipating we would begin the phase 1 implementation of our market study results in November and December of next year. So that's kind of our planned goal, would be bringing everybody that's below market at least up into the newly defined market ranges. But again, that would take place in November of December next year.
It's fair to say it'll be a multi-year process.
Yes, that's correct.
To get us where we need to be as a university.
Yep.
But it will ultimately address graduate student compensation.
Yep.
So.
But don't you think that over the next 2 years would be a long time for graduate students?
Yeah, I think we're trying to move as quickly as possible and doing it through a multi-year. We can't, that's a really large sum of money, $68 million. And to recoup that internally and from other sources, it takes time to build up that bank of money to pay for that compensation, and then also to have it self-sustaining across the board.
Hi there. A lot of our fee dollars for student services fee goes towards things like, Lafine, the union, the rec, and they have their own, products that they'll sell. For Lafine in particular, healthcare, which will have fees for students. Would those separately also have the operational support fee applied to it? Would the rec selling memberships to staff and alumni have the fee applied to it? Would Lafine having, healthcare, would that fee be applied to it? The union with each of their, restaurants and things like that. Would the fee be applied to all of that?
So one thing that we didn't cover is we've got a whole governance structure working on all of the different components. So everything that we kind of flew through today was really at that 50,000-foot view. And so the governance groups are working on to take it from concept down to how do we work through all the particular details like you're getting at. So we don't have a final answer on the final methodologies, but some of those that you listed off most likely would. But again, the governance group have to really work through all the particular details.
And by governance group, we have a collection of deans, budgetary officers, and other staff members helping us kind of process this information and make the best possible decision going forward.
So I have 2 questions. The first one is just to clarify, when you guys say 5% increase, does it mean it's a 5% extra on the actual tuition you're paying, or?
No, what we're referencing is the revenues that are generated off of your current fee rates. we would apply we would take 5% of that revenue and put it towards our antiquated technology pool funding. So it's not raising the rates $5, it's just taking those revenues and distributing them back to the technology replacement project.
Okay, but it doesn't imply an increase of the amount you have to pay.
Yeah, and well, but I think that's what Sam's point was earlier. I don't want to speak for you, Sam, but basically understanding that I think your conversation next is to talk about a student services fee increase, but wanting you to have the understanding of the entire picture of what the finances are going to look like for student services.
Okay. And the second one is international students on top of their tuition, they have an additional fee they pay since they're out of state. And I was wondering if we were to consider an increase on the amount they pay, would that also affect the additional fee they pay on top of their tuition?
So the 5% operational fee would not be on student tuition dollars. And I think what you're referencing is the out-of-state tuition rate. Is that right? Is that what you're talking about? So that wouldn't have any change to that would not be in relation to this 5% fee that we're talking about today.
Consider an increase on the student fee.
This student tuition, yeah.
That impact the additional fee they pay since they're international or?
Generally, when we increase tuition, we increase all cohorts. So it'd be out-of-state students, in-state students. It's generally graduate students. I mean, it's applied generally across the board. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a big question asker. So some of the, well, first, this is a two-parter. Will college, fees that are levied individually from tuition or SSF, will those have this 5% applied to it as well?
Yes.
And then a lot of the money from that, particularly for arts and science, go towards replacing technology and for a graduate student salary support.
Right.
Would this be replacing that and making that more central, or would those fees already be going towards that? Does this kind of replace some of the money that these fees are going towards?
I don't know that it would replace it directly, but again, the intent would be to take these dollars and put it towards our technology replacement. What you're talking about are more the operational items, and so I think the college will have to go back and look at how do we adjust our budgets in accordance with this fee being off the top.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, you guys have mentioned a couple of different dates. You've mentioned the over our next gen campus, that's a 10-year thing. You've mentioned for the grad students a 2-year plan. What's your intended implementation dates of replacing the technology, replacing cases, replacing all of that?
So the technology projects in particular, those are massive undertakings that generally take about 4 years to do. And so what we would be looking at would be a 4-year effort, probably starting sometime next year to replace all 3 of those. They take a long time. They're very, very complicated. Yeah.
So what's the timeline on this as far as implementing? And I'm just thinking about our college fees and stuff like that, since there's a couple that are increasing. There's this year. I know arts and sciences just did one last year, but we'll probably need another one considering how small it is as of right now. Would that be something they're doing next year, or they're taking into consideration for this upcoming?
Well, I think every dean's going to handle this differently according to their financial situation. So I don't want to speak for Dean Culberson what his future ask may be, but I mean, you're right. They did ask for a fee increase last year, and I know Ag and also AP Design also has requests this year. So if that addresses your question exactly, though, but
I guess what would be their timeline as far as reacting to this? Is this implemented next fiscal year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the intent is to start Yes, next fiscal year. And then each college, then the annual cycle would start in the fall. And then that's where we would, I think, Provost Mendez, you're the sort of the first step in understanding when a college might want to request an increase.
And just to that point, I know deans come all the time with fee increases, and I always ask, okay, exactly, is there any way in which I would hate to ask SGA to increase? I mean, just to be very mindful that the cost of attending college increases every year across the country, and just being very mindful of that. Are you asking, make sure that the asks are very detailed and have a really strong rationale. So, and we would continue doing that in the future years.
Just point of clarification, could you elaborate on, like, as far as the College of Agriculture and then APD, since they are in review in just a couple of weeks, like, they wouldn't be allowed to submit revised requests now for their college fee increases, given this new information?
No, they're kind of baked into this ask overall, and so I think that was.
Well, they didn't bake in the 5%.
They didn't bake in
Yeah,
the
just be
5%,
clear.
but in terms of the question is, if they wouldn't change it. They put the ask for this year as is. So
I've got kind of a three-parter, but they're all quick. How many years is the 1.1%?
3 years.
Okay.
Each 1.1 a year for 3 years,
Okay.
starting next
So
fiscal year.
that ends up being, what is it? 1.28 million from the student services fee. Is that still represented on a tuition bill as the student services fee?
So I think maybe we're mixing a couple things together. So the 1.1 is that's not on so the 5% operational support fee, that's the 800,000. That would be, that would start next year, right? That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the 1.1, if I'm trying to separate those two actions, if that makes sense.
So the 500,000 or the 800,000 is pulled from the student services fee. Is the 1.1% also pulled from the student services fee?
No.
But for the 800,000, that 5%, is that still going to be like line item on a tuition bill represented as the student
Services fee. Yep.
And my last part to this question is why student service fee and not tuition?
Because what we're doing, so let me back up. So the reason why we are applying that 5% across a variety of revenues coming into the institution is those activities that are funded with the revenue generate a lot of effort in our enterprise system. So we want to spread the cost of the replacement project equitably across the different components of the university. Student tuition would still play a part. If you go back a slide, there's the piece about the cash pullback. And so that's, those dollars are oftentimes tuition dollars that have been unspent. We would take some of those dollars and also put that towards technology and repair and renovation. So this is really meant to kind of level the playing field in terms of everybody contributing in some fashion to the technology. But we didn't want to put the entire cost of the technology only on tuition, if that makes sense.
Round of applause for Anna getting her stuff.
Yeah.
I need the exercise now.
So you gave a 4-year timeline on kind of replacing these, big technological systems. After those 4 years, will this fee still be in place? Will those dollars go to some other project, or is it just kind of for this project?
Our intent would then be to take those dollars and put it to repair and renovation of facilities.
Okay, so we should expect this to be permanent fixture kind of going forward.
At this point, yeah.
All right.
Hi, I just have questions about like the specifics of the systems that are being revamped. So I know you said it's HRIS, CASIS, and then the financial aid part of CASIS.
No, it's our accounting system. Sorry.
Okay. Is there anything, I guess, like more nuanced, like registrar, like financial aid side, or is it just CASIS, HRIS?
Well, financial aid is through CASIS. So basically,
Okay.
yeah,
That's what I was wondering.
it's all gonna, yeah, it would all be revamped. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Hope to a much more modern platform is what the goal is. Yeah.
I know you discussed raising faculty and staff's wages and then raising graduate assistant raises. I do know that student employees fall at the bottom of that totem pole when it does come to that, but is there any thought about raising those as well, without necessarily taking out too much from what you're already taking out?
We didn't necessarily bake that into any of the equations that we have up here. One thing to note is there is a bill currently in consideration at the state legislature that would raise the minimum wage of student employees. That would be an area that certainly students could go and advocate for to say, raise that minimum wage. What I would say too is we also need to advocate for additional state funding to support that cost. Because I think when we ran the numbers, I'm going to look at Becca. Do we remember what the cost was to raise minimum wage? Okay, 3.8 million was what it was. So if we could get some additional support from the state for that, that would be really beneficial.
All right, one more question.
Would there be a sort of commitment from administration not to increase the 5% operational fee on any of these entities for the next couple of years, or does that make sense?
So one area that we didn't slide that's in our forum is what do we do with this plan if things don't go as we had hoped, right? Because so we built a lot of this on the goal for growth in enrollment, growth in our research, those areas. However, every year we have
Complicating factors.
Yep.
So
Complicating factors like the state may come in and cut our budgets, or we may have declines in enrollment. Overall, our plan and our financial core objectives remain the same. We might have to adjust the levers. So I don't want to say yes because we don't know what else might hit us in the coming future years, if that makes sense.
this model was put together on the basis of a couple of assumptions and with the commitment to growth enrollment wise. So.
Yep.
I'm assuming that when this was put together, that was considering enrollment cliffs and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
But
again,
we're
and-
constantly sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
We're constantly monitoring. It's something you have to watch and monitor constantly. So always looking for changes. So.
Yep. Yeah.
So do current enrollment models expect a increase in enrollment for the next, 5, however many years that those go?
That's more of a crystal ball every year. I do know as far as we were up 4.4% this last I almost said election cycle. I have the elections in my head. This last enrollment cycle, we're going to be up we're projected to be up this next year. Probably not by 4.4%, but somewhere probably in the neighborhood of 3% overall. But it's something that in enrollment management, you just don't, you want to be conservative, and you usually do it year by year.
And that's the key piece why we need to invest additional dollars into those units is so that we can continue to grow that market share.
All right, I have a question before someone else sneaks in front. So I am an RA in one of the just one of the complexes, and I don't know if this is particularly relevant, but will housing costs be affected by this 5% increase or theoretical 5% increase?
I think I know we're getting into a lot of the details, and we still have a lot of work to do in the governance group. So I'm TBD.
Given that we're essentially receiving a 5% tax, how would the university feel about the optics of adding $24 to the student services fee to account for that 5%, bringing us up to $514 a semester?
What's that? So it'd be a 5% increase?
Roughly, yeah.
I think, we're happy to have the conversations and support the students in that request to the board.
You talk about these working groups for working out the specifics of this, is there any student representation on these groups? Are there any plans to have student representation on any of these since, there's a pretty big impact?
These are really highly complex equations and conversations having as far as deans are involved. We did talk about student involvement, but just given as far as the sensitive nature of budgets, and we're looking at like salaries of faculty, particular faculty, didn't think it, as a proxy for that, we're happy to appear before SGA and answer additional questions about the process. So, but we do spend how many hours, like countless hours in these meetings. And so we want also the, you all to spend time on your studies because the amount, because we're paid to be in these meetings and kind of process this information, but we do promise we'll happy to provide updates as we go along farther in the process. Great question.
Is there faculty senate representation on these?
There is. So on the, we call it, so once again, the slide you're not seeing because we didn't want to overwhelm folks overall. We have the workhorse committee is called the advisory budget committee, and there's 3 deans on it on that, in addition to the faculty senate chair and the faculty senate chair elect.
Any other questions?
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to the roadshow.
So thank you so much.
Do you guys have any questions for us before you go? Probably not, but you got all these things gathered.
Well, how are you all feeling about the semester? How many weeks do we have spring break? We got that coming? Yeah.
Quick question, how are your neighbors?
How are my neighbors?
Yeah.
Oh, this seems like you're operating from inside information. So,
I may live in the.
yeah. So, my neighbors are fantastic, and they're very studious and, they're great neighbors.
I'm
So,
glad to hear.
yeah. So, how's the dog that I have that sometimes wakes people up?
He's never woke me up, so.
Okay, good. We're doing good. So, yeah, so. Great question today. So, well, if there's any additional questions you have, feel free to reach out whenever. Happy to come up before the group again, later on in the process. But once again, thank you so much for your engagement. Really great questions across the board. It made this thing, really hard. And so, but hope you have a great rest of the semester. Stay safe later on this week, and we'll see you around. Most importantly, go Cats.
Okay. Hope y'all are having fun so far. I wanted to throw the agenda up on the board. It is very long tonight. Anyone who doesn't want to stay for the rest, now you're free to go. However, our next presentation is going to be on enrollment projections and also plays into the same conversation that we were just having and will be very important later tonight when we start talking about fee increase. So the next presentation is very relevant if you want to be a part of this ongoing discussion. Are there any questions about tonight so far? Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah.
We'll wait for Ethan to leave. Oh, I'm just joking. I'm not actually here to talk about enrollment projections per se, but just to talk about your student services fee rates. Nope, you're good. Really just here as the co-advisor with Jamie Fogel to talk about what your rates have been. And if you were to look at some type of increase scenario, what does that look like? And so first thing I want to talk through is from 2020 to 2025. So you've held steady since 2023, and you can see a 3-year and a 5-year increase on there. And so one of the things that we've talked about with Dr. Lane a lot is when should you increase? What's a good time frame? What's a good percentage? We've given you some projections up here based on your current student services fee revenue of what, one, it would generate at what percent and what would that rate actually be? In the past, we've seen some hesitation of going over a $500 mark. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just one of the things that you might want to consider is what optics you want to put forth. And I know a lot of opinions with regards to KU matter to people. And so what's KU doing versus what K-State's doing? And so getting that information, and I think you said you were going to check on KU, or was it Thomas maybe was going to check on? I think Dr. Lee was going to. Okay. One of us is going to check on what KU plans to do. But either way, you can see if you were to increase from a 1 to 5%, those are your estimated revenue changes. Put some things on here to consider. Because we're presenting this to KBOR, we have to do a tuition rate proposal every year from my office. And in that proposal is a student services fee proposal as well. And so typically the current chair goes and presents that at KBOR. And within that proposal, what we have to do is make sure that we have a justification for the fee. So we can't just raise it for no reason. They'll want to know, what is the justification? I've put a few things up there for you. Inflationary, obviously that's a no-brainer in the past 5 years, but also the supported entities that you're looking at. You're increasing for Lafine or rec. What is it for? Is it health and well-being? What are you trying to target and trying to raise that fee for? One thing to consider is one-time versus recurring costs. So if you're looking at funding a special project, you don't need to raise your fee for that. You just need to use your reserves. You do have bond surplus, and we can send you those amounts if you want those, Sam, to use for one-time costs. So thinking through that. Other things that we've talked through previously is multi-year planning. So I know this is a year-to-year committee and somebody different chairs at each year, but if you can get to a point where you're steadily increasing and getting that buy-in from students that you would increase 1 to 2% a year, you could stair step this rather than a larger one. But again, that's really up to the committee to decide. And then enrollment trends. So Ethan talked a little bit about enrollment and enrollment cliff. Right now, last year we saw an increase in enrollment. We will have those returning cohorts and we will still have technically an increase. I still have information from enrollment management for fall that needs to come in. So I can't really predict what next year's new first-time freshmen will look like, but the returning will help with that increased revenue. The other thing, if you want to flip to the last page, this is really just a timeline of the various processes that we do at the institution, whether it's tuition, college fees, or the student services fee. So put those in purple of where we're at. We have to turn in our tuition rate proposal at the end of April. And first read is in May to KBOR, but they don't actually do approvals until June. And so that's when the chair would come and present at that KBOR meeting. So that's what I just wanted to put in front of you guys for your discussion as you start talking about rate increases. If you have any questions, Jamie will answer them. I'm happy to answer them at any point.
I don't think we need to talk at this point.
Yeah. So for these increase scenarios, are they just a straight 5% or 4% increase, or do they account for the weird hourly between graduate and undergraduate students?
It's just a straight on your current revenue. So you will have the nuances. Yeah. And this, it says it on there, but it's based on flat enrollment right now, while we wait for those pending enrollment predictions.
Would we literally also have to write legislation to increase Salina's fee to
No.
account for ours? Okay,
No.
ignore Salina.
Ignore Salina.
great. I'm sure they love that.
I did not say that. Yes, that was just for context.
Okay, perfect.
They're always having the same discussions at the same time. So we want to make sure that we are looking at their history as well.
Perfect.
Would we be trying to increase the fee for this Senate term or for next Senate term? Because SSF is only gonna be like once or twice before the end of next Senate term, or like before we go off to summer. So are we gonna try to increase it like now?
Like tonight, or worst case scenario, Monday, and then we end up special ordering it in the last Senate, which hopefully doesn't break everyone's brains. I feel like I've given more, I know, but I've been talking about it for months. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Do you guys want to move rooms, or do we want to stay in here and go through the rest of this? All right. I think we, what, you just want to stay here?
I was gonna do we have enough space in the other room? Yeah, I think that we are in the
If I
awkward
do,
middle space.
I think you just stay.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna, are you logged in on Teams per chance? Perfect. Okay, then we're gonna jump to reference legislation. I'm gonna organize our agenda tonight in the things that are most important to get done today. And then we'll circle back to everything you just heard and have discussion at the end, because I know that that can drag on for a while. And I also think that we have at least 2 committee members still coming, maybe just 1. Logan, who are we missing? We're missing Jacob. We're missing Brant has resigned. We're missing Miles. So we have quorum minus Brant. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, wherever. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns regarding this? This is the one that is not written by us. This is one that was referred to us. This is not their contract. You guys can also pull it up on Teams on your virtual computers. Also, everything that's been presented tonight is also in your Teams except for the provost and Ethan Erickson's presentation.
Which, Sam, that's on the K-State website.
Yeah, I'll throw it in there. I just haven't done that yet. And then everything else that we're gonna be talking about later tonight is also floating at the bottom of our entities folder. So also anyone who's not on the committee, you have access to that on Teams.
What did this change? Okay.
I was gonna say. This room is so big. This is the most awkward committee I've ever been in.
Yeah, unfortunately. And is Scott? Okay, Scott. Yeah. I have no questions on this. I mean, it makes sense. Hopefully it isn't too much of a burden, but I don't think that we can know that until we see what happens. Just, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about not expressing my opinion as chair on this because I have no particular.
This feels, I cannot foresee any dire consequences as a result of this.
Joseph, why do you look disgusted? What do you hate about it?
Because like, so for wind power specifically, we don't have an accountant right now.
Okay.
I don't have access to all my finances right now. I would not be able to submit a post-event report, and it is through no fault of my own. So I wouldn't be able to comply with this, and no matter how hard I tried. And
But don't you think that requiring that level of compliance would encourage administrators to then comply or to give you access to your finances? Like someone has to be knowing where and how your money is spent, even if it's not you.
Yes, but they don't care about me.
They would be forced to.
No, they don't care.
Then you won't get money anymore.
In this particular instance for like a specific event, right? Like, couldn't you just do a breakdown of the cost for that event? Would that not satisfy this?
Well, I don't actually know the final cost of everything.
Doesn't
they
that
order.
seem like how we not want student dollars to be allocated?
Well, I don't know the final cost.
It feels problematic.
I don't know the final cost of, I know when I run out of student dollars, I don't know if there are any fees tacked on or taxes or shipping. Because I see the face value of everything that I am getting, and that's all I can get. So like for an Airbnb, I don't know what the fees are that are tacked onto it, or sometimes we do pay taxes and sometimes we don't.
You should
That's
never be
weird.
paying taxes.
I don't know if I pay taxes with student service fee dollars.
I suppose the question would be because Wind Power gets like like through the competition, not on an event by event basis, right?
We don't get money from it.
No, as in from SGA, from.
No, it's not event by event basis.
So would this even apply there? Because I'd assume that this would be on an event by event basis.
I would encourage the committee not to vote on this legislation one way or another in accordance to how Wind Power allocates their money. I think that's an issue.
I think that considering real student organizations is very
I
reasonable.
think basing our decisions based on and student organization.
Does anyone else have student organization?
Matt, go.
Sorry, can Joseph just re-explain his concerns?
This doesn't say who has to submit a post-event report at all, just student organizations. So regardless of whether I requested funds for travel for an event, could be interpreted to just say, hey, you have to submit a post-event funding allocation report, regardless. It also it effectively tries to require administration or the colleges to do things, which generally goes poorly. And sometimes it's just not wholly appropriate.
If we just put in after the words receiving funds for an event.
Student, or you just put in student fee funds. Like, I don't actually care what he does with his grant dollars.
Well, no, because the concern is that this applies to people like clubs, even if it's not like for a specific event. So if this is just like, if it was specified that it is, you receive funds for an event, you report back what the cost of that event was, right? Because
Was the goal and hope of this just to be event-based or to be club-based? Because I've had these conversations the last 2 years and I don't remember.
it says event-based. Because it says for a post-event, so that's why I wish the max
If
was.
you want to move to make an event,
Would that solve this problem?
Yeah, that would solve this problem. And the other thing is that they talked about the SPI training being online. If we could just add, which will be available online, then I think this is perfectly reasonable, but it's very vague in both of those, which makes it difficult.
I don't think there's a reason for us to add which will be online.
I
feel like that's pigeonholing,
I'll
like availability, but what if they do have it for? I think being able to have that option.
If they have in-person sessions, then it will be sometime when they are at their jobs working, which is exactly when people have classes. So if an organization's small, they can't get someone there in time, they're just kind of screwed.
even if you do it online, then that satisfies that requirement.
Yes, I'm just saying, make sure that it is available online. Because that's what they had talked about, but it doesn't require that. So if they ended up doing in-person ones, this legislation would convey that it might not be able to make an in-person.
Yeah.
Can you just summarize this as like a 5-year-old? Because I'm very confused on what he is.
Of what he's talking about or what the legislation?
What is your issue with
Both of the things they're adding are just vague enough to be either over enforceable or unenforceable. So the post-event funding allocation report doesn't say that after you've been allocated money for a event, that could be interpreted as after you've been allocated money at all, or after you've been allocated money at all, or for the first one, the financial training. The idea, like when I talked to Max, the specific idea was that it be online, but if we don't write our governing documents like we intended them to be, then that tends to get lost and things get very difficult very quickly.
You just want clarification on this. The
Yes.
bill itself is not the issue, you just want.
Correct.
Okay. Is that a friendly amendment type thing?
No, it's too late for something.
The normal amendment.
I move to amend line 128 to include for an event after receiving funds. Unanimous.
Anna, are you still taking minutes? Logan, okay, perfect. Sorry, just checking on that. Did a single person second that?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Can you restate?
Yeah.
I move to, on line 128, after the words receiving funds, to add for an event. To add for an event after that. So that it specifies that whenever you're receiving funds for an event, you give a report on that event. But if you are not receiving funds for an event, then you do not have your report.
May I add something to this motion?
What would
You can make a second
This-
motion.
I just want to add the word specific in front of it. Just so that, because if it's just for an event, then that's just, to me, in my mind, that's just a single event and then no other, they don't have to do anything for an event. If we put specific, then.
I feel like that's splitting hairs.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. That's
No,
not the
no,
point of this.
there's no need to apologize.
What if we did for that event after funding allocation report?
Sure. I really want to get past this, honestly.
I mean, I'd be happy to submit a report after each event.
Yeah.
Each event,
I want to
there we go.
report for all of the events that you're doing.
That sounds good.
I think that sounds ridiculous. Because me tabling at the College of Engineering Commons event, like
Are you spending money on that event?
occasionally.
Then yes.
So student organizations should submit a event form for every time they table and print flyers to hand out when they're tabling and. Oh, I'm not using student dollars.
You don't even know where the student dollars were and how much you had.
Because I tell the person that I'm ordering from which account to take it out of. And then occasionally I have to ask how much is in each account because I can't keep an accurate tally because there's more stuff on top.
Okay, I think in this situation, we're gonna defer to our advisor. What do you think is the wisest course of action here?
What was
Should we
the
go on
wording
spot?
that you said specifically?
I said for each event, but that might be interpreted to include every meeting and every table.
I'm not an attorney, but I feel like the legislative intent would be clear from this body, given that wording. I don't think anyone's going to.
I don't think the idea
Even
was,
utilizing student dollars, student services fee, or whatever money we're giving them. Each event utilizes student service money.
Yeah, it would be student funds. Clever. Yeah.
That works too, that's.
I think if, in my humble opinion, if an organization has enough wherewithal to host a tabling event, get together for that tabling event, email to organize that tabling event, then they also have enough capability to send one more email that is a report of the event. Okay.
At this point, I have a feeling that no matter what we do to change this,
Someone's waiting. Yes.
well, also, it will have no impact upon what is actually going to occur in terms of a lot of the tax decisions.
Much wisdom.
And so I move to refer this legislation out for the unanimous.
did we change G to say that it should be available online?
No,
We only changed one.
Nobody moved to do that
no.
and nobody seconded that. So,
If you want to amend this, just amend this on the floor. I think it'll
I think
Maybe a little
that's
bit
a
easier.
very poor choice on this.
Can I ask our advisor's opinion again about adding the words found online?
Please. You know, Becca, do you have a strong opinion on this one? I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm quite confident it does not matter, but if you want to have it,
I think whenever we have an event like we did where like Amy left or something, and we don't have the specific idea behind what we were trying to do in the Gov Docs, it creates a really big problem.
Okay, I rescind my motion. I move to after involvement on line 127, put comma, whether online or in person, comma, unanimously.
Second.
All right. I move to unanimously approve the amended bill or refer it out favorably unanimously.
Second.
Right.
Cool.
Ready.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you all very much. Anna, can we jump to the next one in no particular order? We've got three more. Yeah, perfect. Beautiful. Thank you. Anna's the goat tonight.
Thank you, Anna, for being here.
Maintenance reserve. I don't believe this is the one that we had the wrong number, but I do believe it was one of them. No?
For what?
Didn't I add a zero somewhere where there should not have been an extra zero on Center on Thursday?
Just when you said it
Oh,
out.
just like I do?
Yeah, it was entirely. I don't remember
I can live with that.
pointing out. Did someone point out any problems with these?
No.
No, I don't think so.
At the very least for maintenance, it looks correct. For the actual, work.
I think I might have missed.
The part which is most important on the contract looks correct.
Can you scroll
It is
up?
how I like things to be. I think the only thing that I'm worried about, is now that we're talking about our 3 rec contracts, the question I've gotten several times after hearing about the budget transformation, extra 5% off the top, does knowing that we're losing an extra 5% change the amount that we want to allocate to the rec? Or do we feel comfortable with this regardless, and that will likely affect our discussions of looking later tonight?
Because at the very least for the maintenance, no, because the problem is that if we don't fund the maintenance now, we will have a costly renovation in about a decade. And I think that that's way worse long term.
When I'm asked what I think the committee cares most about, I say doing maintenance now and making sure we're keeping up with our infrastructure now. That way we're not paying more later.
Especially because the whole problem with the enrollment cliff is not necessarily that our enrollment will die immediately, but that 10 years down the line, it'll come lower than it is right now. So 10 years down the line, we do not want to move our bond over directly to another renovation.
10 years down the line, the fee will be $900 a semester.
If it is, we have done something very
Matt would love that. It was $1,000 a semester.
And I have no changes.
Anybody else have any discussion on the maintenance contract or notice any problems with it? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I added an and. If anyone cares to know where it is or wants to fight how procedurally correct this is, say something.
I would like to know where it is so that when our beautiful, lovely speaker asks me if any changes were.
If there is one and.
Second to last red clause.
Oh, so where should?
So
Yeah. I move to post-validate Joseph's this bill. I move to refer this bill out favorably, this amended bill out favorably.
Cool. Okay, cool. Thanks, Sam. R and R.
I moved to apply.
Get rid of that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Word change.
yeah, there should also be an and.
Like to take the blame ops for that.
It's not actually our job to fix stuff. We're just
What if we just keep it?
Yeah, you're overpaid.
Yeah.
What?
I moved to add the and to get rid of the highlight. Just like it. All right, I move to refer this bill, amended bill, favorably unanimously.
Second.
Now this is,
Wait, can we go back? One of these, the very bottom, it's just still, the bill number's not in, it's XXXXX. If we could change that in, it's one of them.
it isn't, I think it's the, no.
No, okay, well then it's. I'm pretty sure it's one of them.
No.
No, okay, beautiful, okay.
And it might have been a.
Okay.
Um,
We go back to the top, sorry. Thank you. Where? Yeah, that works. Yeah.
If I had more than 30 minutes between learning that we needed 5% tax on our student services fee, and now I would probably have a potential reduction in operations, but I don't.
I found out like 4 days before you did.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I certainly do not blame you.
Did you not listen to the town hall?
Oh, I did, entirely.
The town
And
hall
not
on
a single
Thursday
time.
afternoon, my meeting on Friday morning.
I spent the entirety of this morning listening to that hour and a half town hall to see if there was any questions or mention of SSF, and not a single time. Because the mentioning was for cows and ice cream, not a fee applied that is given for SGA usage.
Chase, do you not like cows? We're in high school.
My apologies if that got cheated, I'm kind of annoyed. But in any case, yeah, not a single time is mentioned in that hour and a half town hall. So the fee is mentioned, but I went through all the documentation on this, and it does not mention this fee anywhere that I can see. I wish it did, because that would have helped a lot.
In their defense, I was invited to that and would have asked questions about the fee, but it was during work and I chose to stay at work and make another like
Yeah.
$40.
I say, unfortunately, I've had classes.
Yeah, I did the cost benefit analysis, $30 ahead of fakes.
Yeah, in any case, apologies.
Is there discussion about the amount? Otherwise, I'm gonna ask a follow-up question and we'll talk about whereas well. Is there any further comment, debate, concerns about the amount of funding for Rex operations?
I can't.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it. Whereas clauses, is there anything else you want to say that we think is important to say? And is there any piece you want to touch on regarding this committee's opinion on esports, of which I've gotten many a question about over the past week?
I don't think our position has changed on this.
Cool.
At the very least, in
Mhm.
light of this new information, I believe that our position has in fact doubled down.
Okay. Then you can rewrite the esports whereas clause or just leave it alone. Don't touch anything. Set it back up.
I think it's written it quite poorly.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone want to make a motion?
Oh, I should have mentioned the salary thing. Okay.
I move to refer Bill 93 favorably unanimously.
I think the answer to that question is probably.
Yeah,
It's probably.
which it also fits for this. Unfortunately, this is, if we cut it, it's just gonna be a rough.
An increase is an increase. They'll be happy.
Yeah, I think that this will be. Especially because they have a fee on their memberships now. Oh, certainly.
But we can't.
Yeah, we
The more
can't.
we give back there, the more we have to increase.
Exactly. It's a hard cycle.
We're having fun.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for doing reference to legislation so efficiently. That was awesome. We're not even to 7 yet. Phil sends his regrets.
Can we send our regrets back?
Yes. Yeah, I do think freight elevator is perhaps the next easiest thing to go to, or if you want to talk about the FY 27 budget approval, we do have the union in the room if you guys want to share any, present anything on that. Or otherwise, I'll do all the talking. I have it in the Teams so that they can do it. Okay. Anna,
I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
perfect. Anna, go to entities. Can we open up the freight elevator proposal? There should be 2 documents regarding the freight elevator at least in there. Boom, this is the best one. If we could zoom in on that. So this was something that was presented to us at least back in August, that the freight elevator has been broken for some time. I know if you've spent any time in the union, you've probably seen carts of stuff coming in and out of the pedestrian elevator there. So this is the proposal. I think we're being asked to take money out of the emergency debt reduction. So it says bond surplus on there. Ignore that. We're gonna take it out of emergency allocations and debt reduction account surplus. Becca and Jamie, do we know what amount is currently in that?
There's, it will be projected at year end at 2 million.
Cool.
And your bond surplus is projected at year end at
4.2. That's awesome. Okay. Give you all a second to read while I text Phil back, and then we'll go into discussion. Let me know when you'd like to pull down.
Well, we were looking at taking it out of repair replacement. We have another pretty pressing issue, which will come up on our revised budget next year, that we'll be looking at.
I do.
Minimum 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be, it'll have to be fabricated, and yeah, it'll be a minimum of 6 months, it'll be longer than that. This point, we're hoping to have it by Christmas.
Yeah.
BetMed hasn't had a working elevator in over a year. And as someone who works in events on the 2nd floor and whose kitchen is on the 2nd floor, it's.
Yeah, I would say that this is.
Are there any discussion or questions regarding this allocation? We'll be doing just as a one-time allocation out of reserves. It feels pretty cut and dry to me. It's just a discussion of, do we think this is something we want money to go towards?
Yeah.
So yes or no question.
I don't want money to go towards.
Becca and I talked about it, you guys have the money, it's a good use of resources. It's what I believe, but I think it's great.
What account is this coming out of?
It's not sponsored.
It can't be sponsored.
It's DRE, base or carry forward. And so it's predicted about 2 million by the end of the year.
is what is supposed to be.
Sorry, but which account?
DREA, debt reduction. and-
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I think we could pull it from bond surplus.
Is there a reason we can't put it out of bond surplus? There's that.
Yeah, there's, the president for administration and finance, the student body president, speaker, and SSF chair have to develop a special project proposal. They have to substantiate that it has an impact on student life, contributes to the long-range goals of Kansas State University, and provides value to campus. And then they have to put together a bond surplus proposal. And then there's certain restrictions on how much can come out of it.
Okay.
You could just put a pin in this and move it to next week and then come back with that written proposal and then take it out of bond.
We could have either a written proposal or we can figure out if we could take it out of bond surplus for emergency production by next week.
At the very least, I certainly want to.
Just given that bond surplus has significantly more dollars in it than we need for covering our bonds, and there are emergency debt reduction can be used for more fun projects in the future, I think it would be in the committee's best interest to figure out a way to pull the bond surplus. So we can.
And this
put
project would certainly fit the qualifications of having a project outline bond surplus.
In my long-term goals, I would like there to be a working elevator in the union.
Yeah, that would be a working elevator that is not very tight.
Yeah, I think that fits into my long-term planning goals for how I want this space to be utilized. So then, thank you all. We'll put a pin in this, come back next week and tie it up with a bow, and then special order it through Senate. What?
Other tidbit that might be important to you guys right now, that has to go through Senate.
Yeah, special order it through Senate.
Just, it's not like most of the stuff here.
One-time allocation out of DRA would have gone through Senate. Yeah,
I have no idea.
we've done it before. Remember when I got 80 million questions about next week?
Yeah, all of them have to come at one
So you
time.
figured out where to go. Okay. Then we're gonna hop and skip over to approvals for the FY 27 union reserve budget approval, which we're doing a little bit ahead of the game, but it was sent to us now. I didn't see any reason why we couldn't do it in this term instead of waiting for next term to approve. Yeah, but I couldn't read that if I wanted to. Okay, perfect. Thank you. You know what, that worked. Joe, can you remind me of what you just read out? Who needs to be in the planning meeting for bond surplus? Speaker, me,
President and
Brady,
Ethan.
Ethan.
Do you want me to send that to the?
Yeah, that'd be epic.
Could you see me on that?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh, excellent. You get on spring break next week?
No, we,
No.
it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
This looks pretty good.
You excited for Fig Patty's Day this weekend? And hit the clerk?
You guys see me on Fake Patty's Day, call the police. Something has gone horribly.
Context for this, can you actually give context to the Skywalk renovation? Yeah, I was like, actually, you can explain it better than me. Thank you for being here
My pleasure.
on our fun mega SSF.
Well, I'll just kind of walk you through. Most of this is somewhat similar to what we talked about last fall, but we did make a couple of changes. Obviously, the main freight elevator is still listed up there, but as we talked about, we're looking at different funding. We do have a computer replacement. Again, you don't have to approve that one. It's under 30,000. The Skywalk renovation, I don't know how many of you have been out on the Skywalk, which connects the Union to the parking garage. That unit's been in place since parking garage was built, and that was about 2010. One of the items that we have an issue with is there's a drain on the overhead and it has started to leak. And you probably noticed that sometimes you get water across it. Well, normally that's not a problem, but during the winter time, it's a real issue. We have to really make sure that we ice that well. One of the other things that is starting to happen is there is a granulated surface on there for traction. That is starting to break up. And so it needs to be resurfaced. And so what we are asking is to put aside part of, I think I've allocated $30,000 for that. So that we can bring a construction company in to repair the leak in the drain and resurface that skywalk. The next item on that list is, and this is the one that kind of replaces the freight elevator. You're all aware that we've been struggling to replace the HVAC units in this building that are anywhere from a minimum of now 55 years old up to 70 years old. As a matter of fact, the union turned 70 years old on Friday. So we have some really old equipment up here. Well, one of the problems that happened last fall is we still have 5 old HVAC units. We're down to only 5, but we started off with 26 10 years ago. The units that we have left, their control valves are controlled pneumatically through air. And there is a control unit that controls every one of those. Well, unfortunately, that unit blew out last fall. I could get it replaced. It's $150,000. Well, I don't want to replace it because I want to get rid of the 5 units that it actually controls. So in consultation with Honeywell, who is our energy management firm, who does our software and our systems, and our the company that we do plumbing work, who's done the majority of the HVAC unit replacements, they tell me that if we replace the valves that are pneumatically controlled now, electronic valves, that we can use the current control system to actually control those old units again. What the positive part of this is, they would have to be replaced whenever we replace the HVAC units anyway, so we're just a step ahead. This is a fairly expensive proposition. The bids come in at $235,000. So that would take up the majority of our repair replacement reserve budget for fiscal 27. And then the last item that I have down that I would like to get your approval on is the emergency floor lighting, similar to this in Forum Hall, is 20+ years old. They're bulbs, they're hard to get. The units themselves are broken up. And so we would like to replace that emergency light for safety reasons, as well as just the ability to maintain that particular unit. So that comes to our total amount for this year's fiscal budget. Yes, Sam?
Is there asbestos in Forum Hall?
No,
Perfect.
we're good. Most of the asbestos in the building is in the ballroom. You will occasionally, in some of the areas, there are some asbestos around the heating ducts, but it's usually right around the joints. That's about it. Over the last 2 renovations, the majority of asbestos has been removed out of the building. Any questions I can answer for you? Thank you. Yes.
Just could you for the HVAC things? Could you just say it one more time? And like how you're essentially replacing the 5 units.
We're replacing
the main
control valves. We're not replacing the HVAC units yet. Hopefully we'll get to that in the next few years. But they have control units, valves that basically work the units themselves, both the incoming hot water and the cold water. Right now, those units are air controlled. We have a compressor downstairs that kicks in. Right now, the control box blew out. It's gone. Right now, we cannot control those units other than we can go in and flip the switch and turn them on. turn them off, and that's the only way we can control those. And right now, there's about 10 rooms that actually are subject to use by those units.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Greg, for everything you do for students, by the way.
Oh, my pleasure.
Keeping this place quite literally running for you. So a reminder, this is already money in their R&R budget. It's just the committee approves it over a certain threshold. So if there's no more questions,
I move to approve the amount, the total amount, $366,703 unanimously. Second.
is this not subject to change at all after the Skywalk proposal is finalized, or that's a problem?
Well, that is our budget allocated amount for this year. So if there was a change to that quote, we would have to locate money elsewhere.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all so much. We're flying through this massive agenda. What was next? I think moving on to discussion pieces. Oh, hold on. Now I'll pull it up. There you go. Yep. Yeah. The super fun piece of the night, actually getting into the meat and potatoes of what our co-advisor Becca presented and talking about rate scenarios. I'm gonna imagine that Chase wants to start off this conversation somewhere. You don't have to, but.
I think that thankfully
Mhm.
we were very good about being conservative the rest of the year. And that then means that we can continue to act as though every single dollar that we put forward for the fee needs to come from a direct fee increase. The problem with the 5% fee tax is what I'll say it is.
I like thinking of it as a tax, just framing wise, it's easy for my brain to comprehend.
So the 5% tax is not for the coming year. The problem is for getting FY32 and FY33, which is when our bond payments cease. Because the best way to look at this long term would have been getting over the current enrollment. Would you mind, are the presentations that I talked about, are they in the teams? The Lafine and enrollment?
No, I don't believe so. They might be, I think the easiest way to go about that is to literally be to forward them to Anna.
Yeah.
I know at least one of them are, and then last year I had a folder called Chase's Cool Stuff. I don't think I made that for this year, but I should make a Chase's Cool Stuff folder. I had a with that folder so that and forward it on to the next. Yeah, Chase's Cool Stuff just kind of lives in posterity.
And then I'm going to send these over to you, right?
I was gonna say, I have this pulled up right now if you want me to forward it to. The enrollment model prelim.
No, that's actually where it's all. I think.
The demographic modeling, for chance.
Yes, it would be down here. I'm also.
I'll add that to the teams right now.
Cool, and then I'll send those to Joanna, so they should come up momentarily. And then I would like you to bring up the demographic modeling.
Anna, you're doing awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Anna shot me a text and is like, "You want me to come help you tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
I say thank you so much, Anna. And thank you for dealing with my nonsense.
No.
All right.
You want me to like fully present it or is this fine?
This is fine. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff behind this, for anyone who doesn't know about it. We're just going to go through, we're just going to skip all of this.
this is how I made the model, blah, 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 blah. This is the stuff that, okay, and then the one right below that, actually, and one more. All right, so this is my enrollment modeling for the next few years. And so this dark purple line is where our actual enrollment for Manhattan campuses. That purple line is expected enrollment change over the next few years up until FY33. This is different from the statewide enrollment modeling because this is specifically looking at students on campus, right? So it's not talking about Olathe, not Salina, not people on, right? It's just people at K-State who are paying different fee. So if you'll notice where we are right now, so just under 17,000 for fall, right? This is looking at fall only. We will reach that again in FY32. And so the long-term planning that we kind of worked on in SSF is this idea that if we can get over this hump and we can deal with those first few years of decreases, in FY32, a bond payment is going to retire, which is about, I think, $1 million on the rec. And then FY33, the union bond payment will retire. So that's about $2 million. And so we could have theoretically worked with our current surpluses, increase just a little bit every year, and bite into that surplus every year so that by FY32, we don't have to dramatically increase the fee as enrollment starts to go down, because it goes down pretty substantially. The problem is that with what we've done this year with rent and stuff like that, it leaves us about $800,000 left in the surplus. And so that'll increase next year, but it means that in FY32, if there's no changes, then there will be $0 in the surplus. And that means no changes up or down. And so before we had a surplus to deal with, to board up any future fee increases. Now we have to operate like every single increase in entity has to come out of the fee increase. Because otherwise, whenever it hits FY29, FY30, FY31, then it's going to dramatically reduce the amount of funds that we have. So that's the problem. Yeah, I think that I have other stuff, but everyone here in SSF has seen it. And it's unfortunately quite difficult to explain without kind of like going through it as questions pop up. But that's where I'm standing, where I don't think our idea of how we're talking about the Levine increase should change from how we were before, because it screws up long term, but there's no way for us to kind of deal with that, right? We can't, unless we want to increase the fee substantially now, which doesn't really make sense because that would be increasing the fee to get us a surplus, which would be unnecessary, right? So I think that in the future, the increases should be just for those entities. That's the idea. I don't know, I imagine you all have thoughts.
You want to involve the others as completion, please?
Yeah, if you could have it in the background. Because that is my proposal for what our Levine increase should be.
But we're doing just normal keepers.
Yeah. So I don't think this 5% tax hurts our current ways of working about this, but it does hurt the long term, and it means that there will be a lot less margin for error.
I guess my question is, if we were planning on doing an increase to account for the fact that we haven't had an increase in a while and are trying to keep up with inflation, obviously doing a 3 or even 5% increase does not take into account inflation any longer, since we're taking that 5% tax right off the top.
Yeah.
So even a 3% increase is still an effective 2% cut. Does that affect the committee's discussion or decisions now?
Did we talk about the 5%? About
Okay, please talk.
Yeah.
Is anyone else
Yeah, got some thoughts about that?
It was incredibly difficult to be cordial about that.
That was ridiculous.
Because we do not receive administrational support that, well, I think most of it comes from, other than advisors, from things that we fund, right?